The chapter begins after Yi Chen places his blood on the black stone left by his father. His consciousness is drawn into a dark, supernatural space. The atmosphere feels ancient and oppressive, and Yi Chen immediately understands that this is not a normal dream. Then an ancestral treasure is connected to a hidden inheritance far beyond the ordinary martial world. Inside the space, Yi Chen sees a huge graveyard filled with black tombstones. Thousands of swords are arranged around them, forming a vast formation. Each tombstone appears to contain the will, inheritance, or remnant power of an ancient expert. This is the first real introduction to the Samsara graveyard, which becomes one of Yi Chen's most important sources of growth. A commanding voice mocks Yi Chen's current strength and tells him that he is too weak to awaken even the weakest existence inside the graveyard. This establishes an important rule. The Samsara graveyard is powerful, but Yi Chen must grow before he can claim its benefits. The treasure is not a shortcut without cost. It rewards progress. Yi Chen wakes up in Sun Yi's apartment with the black stone in his hand. He now understands that the stone is not an ordinary family heirloom. It contains the Samsara graveyard, and the tombstones may hold around 100 ancient experts. Yi Chen becomes excited, but he also knows that his current realm is too low to use the graveyard freely. Sun Yi knocks on Yi Chen's door and discusses his stay. She allows him to remain temporarily, but gives him everyday house rules. Contribute rent, help with chores, and not create trouble. The scene adds warmth after the supernatural reveal. To Sun Yi, Yi Chen is still a strange man who needs guidance, not a hidden cultivator with an ancient treasure. Instead of paying normal rent, Yi Chen writes a formula for a basic beauty preservation pill. He says it is worth at least 10 million yuan and asks Sun Yi for 1 month of lodging plus a small amount of cash. Sun Yi does not believe him and thinks he is exaggerating. The irony is that the formula is genuinely valuable enough to change Huame Group's future. After Sun Yi leaves, Yi Chen thinks about how to earn money quickly. He needs resources to cultivate and eventually unlock the graveyard. Because he lacks formal certificates, he cannot simply work as a hospital doctor. He chooses a direct path, set up a medical stall at Qingbei Park and rely on his real ability to save lives. Chapter 12 turns Yi Chen's money problem into a public spectacle. He prepares a stall in Qingbei Park with medical tools, banners, and exaggerated claims. To him, the claims are not exaggerations because he truly can heal illnesses that ordinary doctors cannot. To everyone else, the setup looks like a scam. The crowd is drawn in by the shocking price. Yi Chen asks for a consultation fee beginning at 100,000 yuan, and more complex illnesses could cost much more. People gather not because they trust him, but because they want to see who would dare demand such a ridiculous price from a street stall. Earlier in the chapter, Sun Yi sees the banners and becomes angry. She believes Yi Chen is about to deceive people who are desperate for medical help. Her reaction comes from concern, not cruelty. She wants him to live honestly, but she still has no idea that his medical ability is real. Sun Yi tries to wake him up by asking what his parents would think. The words hit Yi Chen deeply because his parents are gone. He says he would like to see them again but never can. Sun Yi immediately realizes she has touched his deepest wound and regrets speaking so harshly. At the park, a yellow-haired troublemaker calls Yi Chen a fraud. Yi Chen does not need to strike him. The killing intent created by years of brutal training overwhelms the man. He feels as if death is approaching and collapses in fear. The crowd laughs, but it also notices that Yi Chen is not completely ordinary. The chapter creates the bridge to the Shen family arc. Shen Mengjia enters the crowd because her father is dying and she has no hope left. She asks whether Yi Chen really can cure any illness. Her question gives Yi Chen the chance to prove that his banner is not empty boasting. Chapter 12 is built on misunderstanding. Sun Yi doubts him, the crowd mocks him, and the stall looks absurd. But Yi Chen's confidence comes from real skill. The chapter ends by placing him in front of someone desperate enough to test his abilities, which leads directly into the Shen Heihua treatment. Chapter 13 begins when Shen Mengjia notices Yi Chen's stall. She is not fully convinced that he is a real doctor, but her father's condition has left her desperate. Her friend Zhao Min strongly doubts Yi Chen, pointing out his young age and suspicious claims, but Shen Mengjia is willing to take a risk. Shen Mengjia's decision is emotional. Her father is expected to die soon, and all proper medical channels have failed. She does not truly know whether Yi Chen can help, but she sees no better option. In this moment, Yi Chen becomes either a miracle or a last comforting lie. Shen Mengjia grabs Yi Chen and brings him to the car. Yi Chen points out that he has not agreed yet, but she treats the situation as urgent enough to ignore that. Zhao Min continues to see him as a fake doctor, which adds comedy and tension to the journey. Inside the car, Shen Mengjia explains her real motive. She believes her father cannot be saved, but she fears her mother may collapse or commit suicide if told the truth directly. She wants Yi Chen to pretend that her father can be taken away for long-term treatment. Yi Chen is annoyed because she did not choose him for his skill but for his supposed ability to deceive. Yi Chen silently feels wronged. He really can treat difficult illnesses, yet Chen Mengjie treats him as a convenient actor in a lie. The misunderstanding is important because it makes his later miracle more shocking. The person they underestimated is the only person who can actually save Shen Heihua. At the Shen family residence, Shen Mengjie tries to instruct Yi Chen on how to behave and what to say. Yi Chen largely ignores her instructions because he has no intention of acting. He plans to assess the patient directly and decide whether the illness can be cured. Chapter 13 sets up the medical miracle by showing how little faith everyone has in Yi Chen. Shen Mengjie brings him as a false hope. Cao Min sees him as a scammer, and Yi Chen quietly lets the misunderstanding continue. The next chapter turns that misunderstanding into a direct confrontation inside the Shen family. Chapter 14 begins inside the Shen residence. Shen Heihua is unconscious, thin, and almost completely drained of life. Yi Chen sees that death energy has already filled much of his body. Ordinary treatment is useless at this stage, but Yi Chen can still intervene if he acts quickly. Dr. Kiwu and Shen Minglong do not want to accept Yi Chen. They focus on his age, clothes, and lack of a medical license. Shen Minglong appears more interested in what happens after his father's death than in saving him, which reveals the selfish motives inside the family. Dr. Q reveals that Shen Heihua is essentially dying, and Mrs. Shen cannot bear it. She rushes toward a wall in despair. Shen Minglong and Dr. Q are close enough to stop her but do not move. Yi Chen acts instantly and saves her, proving his reflexes and compassion before he even begins the treatment. After stopping Mrs. Chen, Yi Chen says that Shen Heihua can be saved. Everyone reacts with disbelief. From their perspective, every expert has already failed. Yi Chen has no credentials and no visible status, so his confidence sounds arrogant. For Yi Chen, it is a simple medical judgment. Shen Minglong's insults become personal when he drags Yi Chen's parents into the argument. That is the one topic Yi Chen will not tolerate. He slaps Shen Minglong across the room and warns that anyone who insults his parents again may die. This moment links the medical scene back to Yi Chen's unresolved family trauma. Yi Chen announces a price that shocks the entire family: 10 million yuan for the initial awakening, and 50 million more for the complete treatment. The amount sounds outrageous to them, but Yi Chen sees it as a fair price for reversing death and spending his cultivation energy. Chapter 14 builds conflict around trust. The family sees Yi Chen as a suspicious young man demanding an astronomical fee. Yi Chen sees a dying man, a desperate wife, and a corrupt son. The chapter prepares the reader for the treatment that proves his words are not empty. Chapter 15 begins with the Shen family facing a choice. Everyone doubts Yi Chen, but Mrs. Chen cannot abandon the possibility of saving her husband. She agrees to pay the initial fee and allows Yi Chen to begin, even though the people around her call him a fraud. Yi Chen enters the room and begins a treatment that ordinary medicine cannot explain. He activates the Nine Heavens' mysterious Yang technique, places silver needles into key points, and forms the Yin Demon returning Yang formation. The treatment pulls Shen Heihua back from the edge of death by restoring life energy. As the formation operates, the death energy inside Shen Heihua begins to dissipate. Color returns to his face, breathing resumes, and his vital signs improve. The procedure is effective, but it consumes Yi Chen's energy heavily. He knows the patient is only temporarily stabilized and must still receive a later cure. After the first treatment, Yi Chen concludes that Shen Heihua will wake up, but only has around 3 days unless a second stage is performed. Yi Chen will need medicinal pills and further treatment to complete the cure. This creates leverage, but it is also medically true within the story's cultivation system. When Yi Chen exits exhausted, Shen Minglong takes the bank card and refuses to pay. Dr. Q supports him, claiming Yi Chen merely put on an act. This shows how stubborn pride can reject evidence until the miracle becomes impossible to deny. Yi Chen takes the initial payment and leaves. He tells them that Shen Heihua will awaken soon, but that without his follow-up medicine, the man will still die in 3 days. The family does not believe him yet. Yi Chen leaves before receiving their gratitude. The chapter ends with the miracle. Shen Heihua, whom Dr. Q had declared beyond help, sits up on the bed. Everyone is stunned. Dr. Q is especially terrified, because his professional judgment has been overturned by a young man he dismissed as a quack. Chapter 16 begins with the Shen family processing the impossible. Shen Heihua understands that Yi Chen is not a normal doctor. Even if he did not fully see the treatment, he sensed the extraordinary force that pulled him back from death. For him, 60 million yuan is no longer expensive. It is cheap compared with a life. Shen Heihua learns how Shen Minglong treated Yi Chen, and how little concern he showed for his father's life. Furious, he strikes and punishes his son. Shen Minglong loses the future he expected to inherit. The family now understands that offending Yi Chen may have cost them the only chance at survival. Dr. Kidu also loses face and authority. He had declared the patient beyond saving and accused Yi Chen of fraud. Shen Heihua's awakening proves that Dr. Kidu's judgment was limited. The chapter uses him as a contrast between conventional confidence and Yi Chen's extraordinary medical path. The chapter then shifts to Huamei Group. A rival company has released a strong beauty product that threatens Huamei's core business. Xie Yuexu calls an emergency meeting because the company needs a breakthrough formula quickly or risks losing the market. Sun Yi remembers the formula Yi Chen wrote on a napkin. She is conflicted. Part of her remembers Yi Chen's confidence, but another part thinks it may be nonsense. Because the company crisis is serious, presenting a napkin formula could make her look foolish. Suna, Sun Yi's workplace rival, sees the napkin and senses an opportunity. She insults Sun Yi and tries to embarrass her in front of the company's executives. What Suna does not realize is that the thing she is mocking may be worth more than the whole crisis meeting can imagine. Chapter 16 connects two arcs. Chen Heihua's awakening proves Yi Chen's life-saving medical skill, while the Huamei Group meeting brings his beauty formula into corporate conflict. Both scenes show the same idea. People underestimate Yi Chen's gifts until the results become undeniable. Chapter 17 begins with Suna opening the napkin and mocking it. To her, the phrase basic beauty preservation pill sounds like nonsense from a fantasy story. She uses it to ridicule Sun Yi and imply that Sun Yi has been deceived by some man. Sun Yi tries to take the napkin back, but Suna throws it down and steps on it. Some writing becomes damaged. This action becomes critical later because one important ingredient or part of the formula is no longer clear. Suna's attempt to humiliate Sun Yi nearly destroys the company's chance of survival. Xie Yuexu enters the meeting and explains the seriousness of the crisis. The rival product has shaken the market, and Huamei Group cannot rely on old formulas. She demands a solution from the research team, even if the company must pay a huge price for it. Suna turns the damaged napkin into a trap. She claims that Sun Yi has a priceless formula and has promised it can save Huamei Group. Sun Yi is stunned because she never made such a promise. The room now expects her to produce a miracle formula, and failure could destroy her career. Sun Yi has no way to avoid the situation, so she places the napkin before Xie Yuexu and the experts. She apologizes and tries to explain that it may be just a joke from a friend. The executives are angry because a torn napkin looks insulting in the middle of a company crisis. Although most people dismiss the napkin immediately, the ingredients catch the attention of Elder Zhu. His expression changes as he reads more carefully. This is the turning point where Suna's joke begins transforming into a revelation. Chapter 17 is about accidental revelation. Suna wants to humiliate Sun Yi, but by forcing the formula into the meeting, she brings Yi Chen's hidden value into Huamei's highest level crisis. The damage she caused will matter, but the formula itself is about to shock everyone. Chapter 18 begins with Elder Zhu carefully studying the ingredients. His attitude changes from curiosity to shock. While everyone else sees a dirty torn napkin, Elder Zhu sees a structure and medicinal logic that should not appear in ordinary cosmetics research. Elder Zhu confirms that the formula is genuine. His reaction stuns the room because he is a respected authority. If he says the formula is real, the executives can no longer dismiss it. The napkin that Suna mocked may be worth billions and may save Huamei Group. The meeting's power dynamic completely reverses. A moment earlier, Sun Yi was being embarrassed in front of the company. Now she is the person connected to the formula creator. Xie Yuexu and the executives realize that Sun Yi may have brought them the solution they desperately needed. Sun Yi remembers Yi Chen saying the formula was worth at least 10 million yuan. She had not believed him, but now she realizes he was not exaggerating. He gave her a treasure while asking only for a place to stay, and a little spending money. This makes her feel both grateful and guilty. Elder Zhu explains that the formula is powerful enough to surpass the competitor's product, but the damaged writing creates a problem. Without reconstructing the missing part, Huamei cannot safely manufacture it. The company now needs to find the person who wrote it, Yi Chen. When everyone learns that Suna stole and damaged the napkin, the room turns against her. Xie Yuexu removes her from her position and warns that there may be consequences if the missing formula cannot be restored. Suna's scheme backfires completely. Chapter 18 changes Yi Chen's position in the Huamei storyline. He is no longer just the strange man who caused trouble in the lobby. His formula is now Huame Group's greatest hope. The company needs him, and Xia Yuxiu's path finally begins moving toward him. Chapter 19 opens with Sun Yi walking home instead of driving, because she needs time to think. She remembers how she dismissed Yi Chen's formula, and how harshly she spoke to him. Now she understands that he casually handed her something that could be worth billions. When Sun Yi reaches the apartment and does not see Yi Chen, panic and guilt hit her. She thinks he may have left permanently after being hurt by what she said about his parents. She apologizes aloud and promises that he can stay as long as he wants. Yi Chen returns and finds Sun Yi crying. He teases her gently, but the emotional weight remains. She is relieved that he did not leave, and the scene deepens their bond. Yi Chen may be powerful, but Sun Yi's opinion still matters to him. Sun Yi asks directly whether the formula is genuine. Yi Chen confirms that it is. She wants to return it because it is too valuable, but Yi Chen refuses. He says the trade is complete. The formula now belongs to Sun Yi, and to him it is only a basic formula among many greater ones. Sun Yi tells Yi Chen that Xia Yuxiu wants him to come to the company the next morning. This is ironic, because Yi Chen originally went to Huame Group specifically to find Xia Yuxiu, but now circumstances have changed. He is no longer a desperate visitor asking to be seen. Yi Chen refuses Xia Yuxiu's invitation. He believes that if she wants him, she should personally come to him. This refusal shocks Sun Yi, because Xia Yuxiu is someone most people in Jiansheng would beg to meet. Yi Chen's attitude shows his pride and changing priorities. Chapter 19 reverses the relationship between Yi Chen and Huame Group. Earlier, the company refused him entry. Now the company needs him, and Xia Yuxiu wants a meeting. Yi Chen's refusal marks a shift in status. He will not be summoned like an ordinary outsider. Chapter 20 begins the Darren Hall arc. Yi Chen needs herbs to refine pills and increase his cultivation, so he goes to Jiansheng's famous traditional medicine shop. The money earned from Shen Heihua's treatment now becomes fuel for his own growth. Darren Hall is not an ordinary store. It is a respected medicinal shop with a long history and influential connections. This setting introduces the Zhu family, who will become important because they recognize Yi Chen's value earlier than many other Jiansheng forces. While waiting, Yi Chen examines an old painting hanging in the hall. Others treat it as a priceless Tang Bohu masterpiece, reportedly authenticated by experts and purchased for an enormous sum. Yi Chen, however, notices problems immediately. Yi Chen states that the painting is fake. The declaration is dangerous because it challenges the reputation of Darren Hall, the judgment of art experts, and a purchase worth tens of millions. People nearby assume he is ignorant or deliberately causing trouble. Zhu Zixuan, the granddaughter of the store owner, becomes angry. She judges Yi Chen by his clothing and assumes he knows nothing about art or medicine. Her reaction mirrors the pattern of the story. People repeatedly underestimate Yi Chen because he does not look powerful. Zixuan is not just a rude young woman. Her attack contains internal energy, showing that she has trained in ancient martial arts. Yi Chen's response is calm. Her strike cannot move him, and Zhu Ren begins to sense that the young man in front of them may be a true expert. Chapter 20 uses the counterfeit painting to create a new connection. Yi Chen's eye for authenticity is impressive, but the more important reveal is his martial presence. Zhu Ren begins to understand that Yi Chen is not a random visitor. He may be exactly the kind of person the Zhu family needs to befriend.